Today I'm going to be picking some violets to make some violet jelly. Mom has always made violet jelly, but now that I'm at my own house, I want to make it too. And Austin and I don't really have any violets in our yard, or at least not many, but there are tons of violets here at Mom and Dad, so I'm going to pick some violets. Like you can see, this bed is kind of getting overgrown with them, and even down the bank there, where you can't see all that much unless I walk around. But they're all along the bank there, and they're all up in the yard, so I think we should be able to pick a lot of them. So I'm going to pick 2 cups worth, and I'm just going to kind of pinch off the top of them so that way we won't have to cut the stems later. It's going to take me a little while to get to 2 cups. But I have no doubt I will get there because this yard is full of them. You can see, of course, this is a different color of violet, but you can use it too, it doesn't matter. They're really pretty once you get them all in the bottom there. You just see a sea of purple. So now I'm going to rinse these, and I've got a strainer over a bowl there. I'm actually going to put them in the strainer. You want to be good and sure that there's no chance that this could have any kind of spray or anything like that. So with these coming out of the yard, there's nothing on them. But if you got these from the roadside or anything like that, like you would want to be sure that there have been no pesticides or that they hadn't been sprayed with anything that could hurt you. It's good to kind of go through them, I think, like this with your hands, just to get them all wet and get anything dirty off of them. And even though they look really fragile, they're really, I mean, you can pick them up in clumps like this. It's not going to hurt them. Get them in here. Get the rest of them all in there. Now we're going to boil 2 cups of water and pour it over them. So our water was boiling, and this is just 2 cups. And I'm just going to pour it right over the top. You can see all the green parts of the flower there. Those are fine to just leave on there. It doesn't have to be only the petals. It can be the green parts as well, because with this, we're just wanting the juice, and we're going to strain it. And you can take a spoon and kind of make sure they're all kind of covered. You don't have to stir it too crazy or anything. And I can already smell it steeping. It smells kind of like tea. So once it has cooled down some, we'll put a lid on it, and then you'll want to steep it overnight. So I have let this set overnight, and now I'm going to pour this through a strainer. Scrape all of the last bits down in there. If you can, I would just have a strainer like this to where you could just let it set and drain and get all the last liquid out of that. But look how pretty that purple liquid is. It is really purple. So I'll let this set for a while, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so it is the next morning, and now I'm going to can this jelly. So I've got my jar sitting there boiling. They're already on. I've got my other pot back there in that pretty bowl. I've got my violet water. And then I've got 4 cups of sugar, and I've got the lids that have the rubber gasket part, and my sugar gel. So I've got everything kind of together. You'll want to do that before you get started, just so you're not running all over the kitchen trying to figure out where stuff's at once this comes up to boil, because you'll have to work kind of quickly. I've also got tongs, a ladle, a whisk. I'm just going to boil my jars like this. Some people do water bath them, but I've just always grew up with Mom and Granny doing it this way, and we've never had a problem. So I just wanted to kind of address that, and also just want to state that this is just the way that I do it, the way that Mom and Granny kind of taught me, and it's not the only way to do it. These lids, and instead of throwing them in right now, since that's really hot, this rubber part, honestly, my guess would probably be fine, because you do, pressure can with these when you can green beans and other stuff that gets way hotter than this is going to get. But just to be safe, I'm going to leave these out, and then individually, as I'm ready to use them, I'll just dip them in once the water is boiling. So first things first, I'm going to dump this water in here. It actually kind of took on a bluish hint kind of overnight. Bluey purple. really pretty. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut this on and then put in the sugar gel. This said 1 packet, but if you read on the box of the sugar gel, it'll give you directions and kind of tell you what to do. And now you just have to stir this in a lot, and then as it starts to cook and come up to a boil, all of this will meld together and you won't have these clumps anymore. It's pretty though, because when you put that sugar gel in, it really takes on that kind of electric purple hue. So this will take a little while. Stir this together. Once this does come up to a boil, we're going to add 4 cups of sugar that I've got sitting on the counter here. Then we'll bring it up to a boil one more time for a minute, and then we'll be ready to pour. As far as how much this recipe makes, if you're just using 2 cups of violets, you're going to get maybe about 4 of those little 8-ounce jelly jars. Then you'll have a little bit left over. And I'll just put that in a jar as well. And then that'll be what goes in the refrigerator and what we eat first, since it doesn't fill up the jar completely. You can see this stuff will start to incorporate once it gets a little bit of heat. It don't have to boil yet, and now it's completely incorporated and there's no clumps anymore. This is super fun because this is the first time that I've ever actually canned by myself at my own house. I grew up helping mom and dad with it for ages, you know, as long as I can remember. But this is the first time that I've actually done it by myself at my own house, and it's really fun. And it's super cool to think too that not only is it amazing that you can grow your own food that you can, but really neat that you can go outside and pick flowers that just come up wild that you didn't plant, that you can just harvest them and then make jelly out of them. That's pretty neat. Of course, you can also make dandelion jelly, and Mom recently did a video on that, so I'll put that in the description if you hadn't seen that, dandelion jelly. So you're going to want to let this boil pretty good. You don't want it to just barely boil. You want to let it boil pretty good before you dump in the sugar. And then when you dump in the sugar, you want to put it all in all at once. So it's just good to have it measured out, 4 cups in a bowl. Then you can just dump the bowl in. So it's boiling pretty good at this point. So I'm going to add my sugar. And of course, it takes some effort to stir it in because it gets in there and gets clumpy. I like to use like something, just whatever kind of utensil you've got, wooden or even metal, first to get it even incorporated, and then I'm going to use a whisk because a whisk will kind of get it together even better, make it come together, I should say. It smells good. It smells different. It doesn't smell like you would think. Of course, it smells sweet, but it smells kind of floral, which of course makes sense since it's flowers. Here's the whisk that I use. This whisk right here is awesome. It's by Rada, however you want to say it. And they make really good kitchen things, kitchen cutlery and kitchen tools, utensils is the word I'm looking for. So we want to bring this to a really good boil as well. And you'll know when you've kind of reached that really good boil because even when you're stirring it, it's still going to really bubble. And then it also creates, it's already got a little bit of that going on, kind of this sort of layer on the top. But once it starts boiling really good, you'll really be able to see that layer on the top. If that bothers you, you can skim that off. But it doesn't bother me, so I'm just going to leave it on there and not have to do that extra step. Alright, that's looking pretty good there, so now I'm going to set my timer for a minute. Now we're going to pull that off the heat. And now we're going to start getting our jars out. So of course, as you can imagine, these jars are very hot. So you'll want to be very careful when you grab them and dump the water out. You just want to get one at a time out like that. We'll put our funnel in there. Now we'll pull our pot over a little closer. Use our ladle and just dump it in. Then the method that I like to use, because Mama taught me that method, is before you take this funnel out and set it down and get jelly, which I've already got some jelly on this towel, but to keep this kind of as sanitary as you can, get another jar out, then stick it right into another jar. So that's what I'm gonna do. And you want to try to fill it. You can see I filled it all the way kind of up to the top on the inside until I reached this kind of ring where it's the lid's gonna go on. You don't really want to go much past that, I don't think. So then I'm gonna take one of these back here, if I can get a hold of it. And then I'm just gonna dip this into the boiling water. Then put it on. Grab one of the lids we had. Then at this point it would probably be handy to have an extra towel, because these, of course, lids and jars are extremely hot, as you can imagine. And you want to make sure that you get it on there tight. But it's hard to hold on to because it's so hot. And then I take them and put them in the back here and just turn them upside down for a few minutes. And then we're ready to do the next one. And you might as well use an old towel, because if you're like me, you're gonna spill it out. So probably shouldn't use a towel that you're really fond of. So using this recipe and these jars, this is the last full one that we're gonna get. But I'm gonna use another jar and go ahead and pour what's left into that jar, and then that'll be the one that we eat first. Alright, now I'm gonna clean this area up a little bit. May get a new one of these since we got some sticky jelly on it. Then I'll turn them right side up, and then I'm gonna cover them and let them rest, because then throughout the day they'll kind of heat up some more, and then they're gonna seal. Gonna turn them all right side up now. Ooh, they're hot, as you can imagine. Might not want to do that with bare hands like I did. Then I'll cover them. Might even add on this towel for extra good measure. And they're out of the way there. They're not going to bother me. They're right next to the stove, but it's 7:30 this morning. So I'll be leaving soon to go help Mom and go do some work. So just cover them, and I'll just leave them until I get back. And then at that point, several hours later at the end of the day, they should be sealed. Now I've actually made 2 runs of jelly. This is what's still setting, and this is what I made from last night. I wanted to show you how it turned out. Isn't that color gorgeous? Now there's one more thing we need to do, and that's to put a label on the lids. We need to definitely put the date and put what it is. Even though this has a distinct color, it's always just good to have a label on there of what it is and when you made it, so you know how long it lasts. I'm not worried about getting any more specific on the date than that. Just knowing that I made it in 2022, so next year if I go to open some up, I know how old it is. And these things are really nice where they provide you the date, but it's just really small, so I feel like it's easier to just write on the very top of it. I've had a blast making this violet jelly. This is the first time I've ever canned anything on my own. I've grown up around it for years and kind of already knew a lot about it, but I've never actually done it all by myself before. So that was really fun, and it feels so rewarding knowing that I've made something for Austin and I, and this would be so good on a biscuit or toast or just anything. And especially in the winter, you know, when we break it out, I'll think back to the summer and canning it, and so that's really pretty special. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Drop any comments below and let me know what you think, any kind of questions, anything like that. And as always, God bless you, and I'll catch you at the next video.